Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Today I have a special guest. You all know what we've been speaking about a whole lot recently. We have the person who knows it all. Linda Sarsour. How are you doing, my friend? Did I say it right?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for having me here.
Well, look, let me first ask you, how are you doing?
I feel grateful to be alive and breathing.
And secondly, you are an activist, but you're not just an electoral activist. You're a hell of a lot of, you wear a hell of a lot of hats. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what you do?
I am a Palestinian American organizer and activist born and raised in New York City. I come out of immigrant rights organizing, criminal justice spaces. I was one of the co-chairs of the Women's March on Washington, which was the largest single-day protest in American history. I have been part of many kind of electoral campaigns, including founding the My Muslim Vote, which is a national flagship campaign organizing Muslim American voters across the country. So I have my hands on a lot of things.
Importantly, so there are a lot of things happening. So I mean, if you don't have your hands on a lot of things right now, a lot of things get left behind. Now, even though there's a whole lot of stuff that we can talk about, I think the pressing issue right now is the Palestinian issue, the Gaza issue, the Iran issue, and how they all interrelate. America's seemingly, well, I'll let you elaborate on that. Where are we with respect to the Palestinian issue, first of all, in the aggregate?
So right now, many Americans, maybe 6 months ago, heard that there was a ceasefire. And right. I just want to make it very clear and unequivocal that there has been no ceasefire in Gaza. There continues till today, targeted attacks, people who continue to be killed on a daily basis. The genocide in Gaza has expanded now to include Lebanon. There has been close to 4,000 people who have been killed in Lebanon. As you know, the Israeli government, Benjamin Netanyahu, convinced Donald Trump to participate and to help underwrite a war on Iran. During the month of Ramadan, which is a very holy month for Muslims, we watched a school. We watched 150 Iranian little girls get blown up to smithereens. And so the genocide just continues to get bigger. And it's interesting because in this country, they tell us they don't have money for healthcare. They don't have money for childcare. They don't have money for infrastructure. But it happens that we have a magic box that's always available for wars, for the Pentagon, for military aid to apartheid regimes. And so I just want people to know that there are wars being waged with your taxpayer dollars, without your consent, without your approval, including without the approval of Congress. And that is, or in of itself, is not only is it an unjust war that's happening with Iran, it is an illegal war that is happening with Iran under this administration.
Now, we have been led to believe that the bad ones are the Palestinians. The ones that are effecting war are the Palestinians. I sit often and wonder if people don't have eyes. In other words, if you look at Gaza and you look at Tel Aviv, you look at Jerusalem, you look at Haifa and all these other places, you don't see rubble. But if you look at Gaza, you see total decimation for square mile after square mile. What will it take on your part, on our part, to somehow take the colored glasses off of the eyes of Americans and specifically the American government?
I'll start with the American people. I think, unfortunately, it took a genocide. I think a lot of Americans and the sentiments that Americans had towards Israeli and the Israeli government has changed. We are watching young people who rose up on college campuses across this country to oppose genocide. We have watched recent elections where unequivocal pro-Palestinian candidates, anti-war candidates are winning major Democratic primaries and are going to go to Congress. Some of them include Dr. Frederick Haynes III out of Texas's 30th district, Chris Rabb from Pennsylvania. Just on Tuesday, Dr. Adam Hemawi, who is a Muslim American trauma surgeon who has served in Haiti, in Gaza, and other countries where he's done surgeries on the wounded and the marginalized. He also served in the United States Army as a surgeon and went to Iraq, and he did surgeries on enemy combatants, on American soldiers, and on Iraqi civilians. So we're watching people change through their ways in which they're participating in democracy and in elections. And, for me, people just have to be open to learning. When you look at Gaza or you look at the West Bank, the Palestinian people on the West Bank are under a brutal military occupation. They do not have control over their borders. We do not have an airport in the occupied territories. We do not control any exports and imports that come into the country. If you live within the West Bank, it is almost impossible for you to be a West Bank resident and to be able to travel outside the West Bank. We have checkpoints between villages. So between sometimes traveling from a village that's only 10 minutes away because of checkpoints, it could be a 2-hour trip for you to go visit your daughter or visit someone that you love. Gaza, many people have called it an open air prison.
It is.
They do not have control over their borders, over the sea, over airspace. They do not have airplanes. They do not have an airport. They are under the control of the Israeli government. The government of Israel controls the water supply. They control electricity. And people have to understand that this is 78 years. This is not a new conflict. It's not a new genocide. This has been a slow process of stealing Palestinian land for 78 years. We just commemorated the 78th anniversary of what the Palestinians call Nakba, which is the catastrophe, where 750,000 Palestinians in 1948 were displaced from their homes, some of whom were killed, where 400 Palestinian villages were destroyed, and people were then pushed out. Palestinians are one of the largest refugee communities in the world in diaspora. Lebanon, Syria, we're in refugee camps across the Middle East and in diaspora, including in places like the United States of America.
I'm going to ask you a rhetorical question. Why should America do anything about it when we still don't quite accept the severity of the Trail of Tears? Why should America do anything about it when we look at many issues here locally that mimics much of what Netanyahu is doing, from Netanyahu's prison camps to Trump's prison camps? Why should we expect the American government to, again, do any? I mean, wouldn't you say that we just, as an American citizen, as an American government, not citizenry, government, know how to do it a little bit better?
What I say to the American people about the American government is, once again, the American government is making decisions based on the needs of a foreign nation, not based on the needs of the American people. So again, in the example of the war in Iran, we have spent close to $1.5 to $2 billion per day on this unjust war that none of us wanted. None of the American people wanted, regardless of political party. And so I say to people, let's put the humanity of the Palestinian people aside for just a second. Imagine the amounts of money that we have given to the state of Israel on the levels of billions of dollars in military aid. What we could have done with that at home. What would your district do with that money? How much more resources for schools, for hospitals, for clinics, right? How many more green jobs could we have created for the American people who are struggling now? Look at our gas prices because of us being in a war that nobody wants. People aren't even able to afford to put gas in their cars to get to work and do basic errands. So I tell people all the time, one of the reasons why Palestine is an important issue is not just because I believe the Palestinian people are the most important people in the world, but we are the ones funding it.
Exactly.
We are complicit. We are actually actively complicit in the genocide of the Palestinian people. So when those Palestinians, their homes are rubble, when they see the shrapnel of the bombs that had fell on them, it says made in the USA. Yeah. So that's what I tell people. It's not that we are one issued people or that we prioritize the oppression of the Palestinian people over anybody else's. But I want you to know that it's all intersectional. For example, there are police departments in this country that are being trained by the IDF, by the Israeli Defense Forces. So they learn tactics and strategies. They come back and they implement that against Black and brown people in the United States of America. There are private prisons that are in this country that profit off of imprisoning Black and brown people, that are also profiting off of the imprisonment of Palestinians. So you have to understand, this is a corporate network. There are people that are literally profiting off the oppression of all of our people. It's all interconnected. Netanyahu, for the last 20 years, has been trying to convince every administration, from the Bushes to the Obamas to every administration he has tried, and there's videos of him trying to get the United States into a war with Iran. And guess what? He found one guy, this one, who basically joined in and went to a war with Iran that he doesn't even know why he's in.
And the thing about it is, I think you said it so right, and that is, somehow we can find the money for one thing, but we can't find for the other. It's shameful. It is shameful. Now, we can talk and we can talk and we can talk. And we've been doing that, and we've seen things stay the same. However, I think there's a new dynamic here, and you named it, or you alluded to it earlier on, and that had to do with young people. But in addition to young people, I think the new dynamic is a lot of young Jewish people. A lot of middle-aged Jewish people are starting to say, "Don't do that in my name."
That's right.
And I think in a lot of ways, as sad as it is that it takes that is one of the most important new developments, I think, that could actually change the trajectory of what's going on. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I mean, it has been so heartwarming in the last 3 years to see a number of Jewish neighbors and allies who have come outside, risking their own relationships, some of them within their own families, within their own synagogues, within their own communal spaces. They have engaged in major civil disobedience in places like New York City. They have been co-leading on things like Block the Bombs Act and trying to end military aid to Israel. We've even seen groups that haven't been aligned, like J Street, who has come out and said, we too now support ending military aid to Israel. Jewish groups who have come to the conclusion that, yes, what is happening in Gaza is a genocide, and we do not want any part of that. Young Jews are some of the bravest people in this country. And I have seen them, and I've worked with them, and in relationship to many organizations, Jewish Voice for Peace, If Not Now, Jews for Racial and Economic Justice. And again, it's incredible to see that, as they say, the young people are all right. If we just let the young people lead us, they are going to lead us towards diplomacy and justice and peace. That's why I have hope, because I'm watching young people with so much courage, young Black folks. I mean, I watch these college kids that are they were willing to give up their degrees. They were willing for all the consequences that came to organize on their college campuses during the genocide, to say, I stand against this. I don't want my university complicit in this. I want my university to divest from the Israeli government. Again, just gave me so much hope. And it actually gave the people of Gaza hope. I remember them holding up signs of Columbia University, University of Michigan, UCLA, to tell the young people, we see you, even all the way in Gaza, in a genocide, we see your courage, and that what you're doing now is going to matter. And one day, hopefully in our lifetime, we're going to see a free Palestine.
Linda Sarsour.
Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you so
I appreciate you.
for having been on Politics
Thank you
Right.
so much. I appreciate you and your work.
Welcome to another edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Today, I'm with Shay Leonia. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did. Yes.
And Leonia, you are with the
American Humanist Association.
American Humanist Association. First of all, let me just make a confession. Yes. I am a humanist.
That is wonderful.
Now, what is the American Humanist Association? I mean, here it is. I am a humanist, and I don't know about the American Humanist Association.
Which is a crime, so we have to do better. We exist to spread awareness about humanism. We suspect that there are probably about 45 million humanists in the country that don't even know that they're humanists.
Right.
But the work that we're doing right now is also heavily to do with our legal and policy department that is currently playing whack-a-mole with this administration to make sure that we maintain the separation of church and state.
Now, are you guys able to get a 501c3 to make sure that you're?
Oh yes, we are. We've been in existence for almost 80 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So tell me, what do you do first of all?
I'm the communications manager. Yes. So I host our podcast. We have a podcast called How to Humanist. It just launched in February, so it's still a baby, but it's going very, very well, having a lot of fun there. I also run our creator program where we get a chance to partner with influencers to help spread awareness about certain calls to action that we have that are very timely, and then also just to help people know that we exist.
What makes a humanist a humanist?
Just believing that you don't require a hierarchy of either supernatural being or a book to tell you to be a good person. It's just believing that we are innately good people and a commitment to leave the world better than we found it.
In other words, also not sit back down there and blame somebody for all the bad things that happen, or blame somebody for all the good things that happen.
Correct.
In other words, we lead our destiny. Except for the natural causes, we lead who we are going to be and what we are going to do.
Yes.
What else do you have to tell me about humanism?
Well, this is my first time at Netroots, and I'm just so surprised to hear, and happily surprised to hear, how many people like yourself are aware of humanism and identify as humanists. So that's really encouraging.
Well, I mean, I don't think the evangelical movement supporting somebody like the orange thug will give anyone the belief that there is really truth to anything that they preach, right? I mean, if after you preach about the supreme being and Jesus and all of this, you're able to support somebody that is diametrically opposed to what you believe.
Yeah.
Is that really?
Yeah, it's not doing much good. And as humanists, we have such an admiration and respect for other people and their belief systems, but we just ask for the same in return.
That is interesting. Okay. We humanists are not asking for the non-existence of religious people.
Exactly.
I mean, after all, my wife is a deacon at a Baptist church.
Wow.
Okay. And I am a humanist.
There you go.
You know, and she have the right to have those beliefs. I have the right to believe that, you know what? I am going to take responsibility for things.
Yeah.
I am not going to try to say the devil made me do that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because it doesn't leave you much control to be able to change anything about the outcome.
Right. I mean, if it's preordained, it's preordained, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
You know, so anyway, what else would you like to tell me about your association?
We are a 501c3, and you have the opportunity to join local chapters and affiliates all around the country. We just recently wrapped up one of our first initiatives, one of our biggest initiatives, actually, called the American Empathy Project, where we gave away $100,000 to 100 different humanist groups to do mutual aid in their communities. Because that, I feel there's something that we could do more of as humanists, is do mutual aid in our communities like that. So it was an incredible effort, and there were people that were, showing up to help, people that are facing houselessness, or showing up for senior joy drives and keeping seniors company, and just some wonderful, wonderful efforts that were happening around the country, all on May 2nd. And it was really powerful.
I think if one of the things that would show your success is when people start taking into their hands, I am going to go out there and just going out there and doing something.
Yes.
Right. As a human being.
Yeah.
And helping another human.
Exactly. Yeah. And it doesn't take much. There are people that think that, well, I can barely help myself right now because this administration is making it very difficult. But sometimes if all you can do is say hello or smile at someone, it's a start. It
makes a difference. I tell you a little story. I'm here in Pennsylvania, and one of our supporters just said, "Hey, I live in Pennsylvania. I am going to make that effort to come and see you." That's a simple thing.
Yeah. Exactly. It makes a difference.
It makes a difference. Okay, well, look, give me a closer, and then what would you like to say to close the interview? Yeah,
please visit our website at AmericanHumanist.org. And we have so many different ways for you to get involved, whether it's finding a local community, becoming an advocate, and working with us in our policy team, and making sure that we really bring about the change that is absolutely required right now.
Well, let me get the name right.
Yes, Shay
Leonia. Thank you so kindly for speaking to Politics.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Today I'm with Tia Freeman. Welcome to Politics and Right, Tia.
Hi, thanks for having me. Good.
Look, let me tell you, I understand you are the comms director of an organization. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I work for an organization called Yellowhammer Fund. We are based in Alabama, but we service the Deep South. So that's Mississippi and the Florida Panhandle. We're a reproductive justice organization, abortion fund, and an intermediary for other organizations in the state.
Now, Alabama and a lot of these states like Texas, and I know you probably don't cover Texas, but a lot of these other states, they have put in some very restrictive immigration laws. And what is interesting, Tia, is that while they have these laws and there are people that are affluent, people with means, they can always take a trip to Mexico or take a trip to New York and do whatever they need to do. But people that don't have the means, you're stuck in the same condition. Is that some of the things you're working on?
Yeah, so that's a lot of what we're seeing is that with these really regressive abortion bans, after the fall of, or the reversal of Roe v. Wade, Alabama had a trigger law on the books, so it was immediately gone in the state as well as Mississippi. So the work that we do is to help people get out of the state to get legal access to care. That often looks like sending Alabamians and Mississippians to Illinois, to Chicago, DC, Virginia. A lot of people don't know, but Georgia does have a heartbeat ban. A lot of people think of it as like a 6-week ban. Right. So if we catch it early enough, sometimes we can still send them down the street to Georgia. Right. But most of the time it's travel. So it's paying for flights, procedures, hotel stays. We also allow them to bring a support person because that can be kind of an emotionally heavy experience for some people. So we want to make sure that they feel cared for, not just from their financial needs, but also from their emotional standpoint. Right. And then we work very closely with the clinics across the network to make sure that people have access to care that is dignified and safe and responsive to their cultural needs.
Now, when you do that, do you ever run the risk of the local government accusing you of breaking their laws?
Yes. So after Roe, we were sending people out of state, which was legal and constitutionally protected. Right. And our attorney general threatened to criminalize us by name and said that
the attorney general in what state?
In Alabama, Steve Marshall, threatened to criminalize us for helping people get out of state care. So we sued them, and last March, after nearly 2 years, we won our lawsuit against the state AG and was able to resume funding. But that meant that for those nearly 2 years, we had to pause abortion funding from the state, which impacted a lot of people because that means that they were forced to expand families without the resources necessary to sufficiently provide for them.
And don't they have to prove that you are giving them assistance when you give them money?
Yes, and it's completely legal for someone to go to a legal state and have a procedure done. In the same way, it would be legal to go gambling in a state if your state doesn't have gambling, right?
Something that seemed like it shouldn't even be questioned, right?
Yeah.
Unless you have that, unless you have a interstate law that says you can't do something that's legal in another state. How can they stop what you all are doing in Alabama?
Yeah.
And Mississippi?
And sometimes it's not about if they know that a law can pass or not. Because sometimes they know it won't pass. Right. But what they're doing is they're creating as many barriers and as many obstacles as possible, forcing people to continue their pregnancies. Right. And so for nearly 2 years, we were shut down for abortion funding, which is what they wanted, right? So we won the lawsuit, which is great. We have resumed funding. We have funded every single abortion out of Alabama and Mississippi since March 31st of 2025. But it's about creating obstacles, which was the same that we saw happening under the attacks of Roe before it fell, right? So things like waiting periods, things like having to have parental consent, any gestational bans that were happening. They just wanted as much confusion and as many barriers as possible so people think, it's not worth it or I can't afford it in some capacity.
Well, where do we go from here now? Are you guys working on other things other than just funding? Are you all as well lobbyists in these states to get those draconian laws overturned?
Yeah, so we partner with the Repro Coalition out of Alabama to work to make sure that we can start that fight to get abortion back in the state. Because while we are funding abortion as travel assistance, that's not a perfect scenario. Right. A lot of people, for whatever reason, can't travel, whether they are taking care of other family members with disabilities or the elderly. child rearing their jobs might not let them off for an extended amount of time. So it's kind of like a stopgap where we're doing what we can in this moment, but also actively working to bring abortion back to the state. And we're doing that through a lot of like culture change. So like getting people to understand what abortion is, why people might choose this as an option, as well as like addressing family support needs so that like people don't feel like they're forced into abortion, so that they feel like this is more of a conscientious choice that people are making that's best for themselves and their families. So yeah.
Do you have any sister organization in places like Texas? I noticed you told me you covered the Panhandle of Florida, Mississippi, and Alabama.
Yeah. So we work with a lot of organizations. Some of the organizations I can think of in Texas, we used to work a lot with the AFIA Center. We worked with, there's T-Fund out of Texas. There's Buckle Bunnies out of Texas. I love the work that they do. But really, it's a lot of networks of grassroots, independent clinics that are working throughout the South that are really pushing the work a lot further, whether that's from travel assistance, educating people on things like self-managed abortions, making sure that their legislators know the realities of what their constituents are dealing with. So yeah, we work with Texas. We don't service them necessarily, but we have connections so that if people call us or call our hotline to get care, we can connect them with the local organization there.
Now, what did I not ask you on this subject I should have?
I think a lot of people want to know like how they can get involved or like what they can do a part of the struggle. And one of the things that really supported us is while we were down from our abortion funding, that we didn't have donors abandon us because we needed that funds to be able to, do the lawsuit so that we can get back to having abortion funding. And I think also that allowed us to expand our programming beyond just being an abortion fund, really into the realm of a reproductive justice organization. So I think sometimes people think, oh, like I don't want to run the risk of like criminalization, which is totally fair. We all have to do assessments on our own, danger levels, and think that there are other ways we can get involved. Maybe that looks like sharing posts on social media. Maybe that looks like taking an educational class so you can learn more about what's going on in your environment. Getting involved in local elections and not just federal elections. It looks like supporting people who have gone through the journey. So if you know someone who traveled for an abortion, maybe you house sit and watch their plants for them, or you cook them a meal when they come back. So that's not something that they have to think about. Pick up their kids, with consent, and they feel comfortable with that so that they can rest and prioritize, like getting back into the swing of things in a much more like slow and intentional manner.
Tia Freeman, thank you so
much
for educating us on all
thank you.
In this area.
Yeah, thank you. It was such a nice, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Today, we are honored to have someone special joining us. Now is labor activist, economist, and author Les Leopold, co-founder of the Labor Institute and one of the country's leading voices on working class economics. In his latest book, The Billionaires Have Two Parties, We Need a Party of Our Own, discusses the plight of the working class, which exposes layoffs, corporate greed, all these things that encapsulate what they are, folks. He also worked within the framework of a poll that tells us not only their wants and needs, but gives us direction on where one needs to go to support the working class. Celeste, welcome to Politics Done Right. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, look, let me tell you, first of all, I want to let you know that I've been following your written work on, first on Common Dreams and subsequently your own Substack, and find it not only fascinating and enlightening, but something that I think all should read. And in reading your book, what I've noticed is that you've encapsulated a lot of this in one place, but this time buttressed by data, which I think is so very important. First of all, why did you write this book?
Well, I stumbled on a political bombshell, and I just had to share it with everybody. I found out that working people and others want a new political party, and they want it badly, and it's in numbers far greater than anyone had ever anticipated. Uh, as you mentioned, we did this large survey of the Rust Belt states. Uh, we surveyed 3,000 voters, actually a very expensive YouGov survey. I tossed in a question about whether people were interested in a new political party with a very strong, progressive, populist economic platform, and the response was absolutely overwhelming, blew me out of the water. 57% of the voters of four states, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, 57% wanted a new political party, and only 18% were opposed. Furthermore, those 30 and under, 70% wanted a new political organization. And even 40% of the Trump voters in 2024 wanted a new political entity. So I just had to write this up, and I'm going to do my best to get it out because nobody's talking about this. Nobody knows about it.
Well, I notice you interchangeably have used a new political entity, a new political party. We'll get into that a little bit deeper as far as when we get further. But what I want to do is kind of, you have your, the table of contents is, I always like, the first thing I pick up of a book is a table of content to see where it's going, see the organization. And the first thing that you put in there is, what do working people want? Not what working people, not what we think they want, but I think you said, what do they want? So in short, and I don't want to go too far into it because we want folks to go out there and get the book so they get this stuff in more detail. So before anything, is the book out already or what?
Oh yeah, it's out. You can get it on Amazon, Apple, etc., and you can order it in any bookstore. It's out.
Well, I think we should repeat the name of the book.
The billionaires have two parties. We need a party of our own. And,
okay.
Easy to find.
And here's the thing, Les Leopold, author. Les, you started out, what do working people want?
Okay. Well, let me explain how we've got the answers. Usually, you give people a bunch of
questions,
proposals, and they just, do you like this? Do you like that? And they check a list. What we did is we gave people a series of 4 choices, and we asked them, which one do you like the most? Which one do you like the least? And then another 4, and another 4, and another 4. And we did that with 3,000 people and gave them 10 choices like that. And we found out what they really want is they want job stability. They want job security. They want to see politicians not stick money into their own pockets. Basically, they want what you and I and all your listeners want. We want a livelihood that doesn't get taken away from us to supplement corporate greed. We don't want to sacrifice their jobs so that corporations can pay them, the CEOs can pay themselves more and pay their Wall Street investors more. In this society, people need a basic job. And there's other things that came out of the survey, which people can see when they read that chapter. But to me, the dominant theme was people want job stability.
Now, you went ahead and said they want job stability, and it used to be that there was a time that the Democratic Party represented that party that fought for them. We go into places like Appalachia right now, and the Democratic Party has absolutely little support.
It disappeared.
It has pretty much disappeared. Now I'm gonna push you in party politics a little bit later, but beforehand, what's the problem with the Democratic Party as these working class folks in these 5 states saw?
They saw a party that basically couldn't deliver. We asked an open-ended question, what do you think about the Democratic Party? 70% of the respondents of these 3,000 people had something negative to say. And they weren't complaining about wokeness or immigration. Very few comments on that. It was mostly about they don't deliver, they're out of touch with us, they don't understand who we are. The sense of the Democrats being a party of the billionaires. lost to the working class, betrayed the working class. And we've seen that not just from surveys, I've seen that in workshops where people who've been laid off several times, like steelworkers, are just terribly disappointed that the Democrats have let them down. They thought the Democrats were their party, and now they're not. They don't think they are their party anymore, and they're lost. They don't have a party. They don't have a place to turn, and that's why the name of the book, We
So
Need a Party of Our Own.
now, and well, they don't have a place to turn, but they did turn to a place, and the place that they turn is either right-wing Republican or MAGA land. And what I think, and I don't know if your survey had anything with this involved, but what I think is what the plutocracy used in the MAGA etymology and the right-wing Republicans is to use the carnal fear that these people have of the other to somehow bring them into their tribe. Did you do anything within your testing to elaborate on that issue?
Yeah, you bring up a fair point. The moving away from the Democratic Party, especially amongst white working class voters, started well before Trump. It's been going on ever since the 1980s. And I don't think the primary driver was fear of the other. We did some other analysis of these voter surveys, these very large ones that have been done after every election. And in fact, the white working class has become more liberal on key issues. For example, should gay couples be able to adopt children? In the last 20 years, that's gone from 33% of the white working class supported it to 70% now support it. Should immigrants who've been here for at least 3 years, paid their taxes, haven't committed a felony crime, should they have a path to citizenship? That's also gone up from 33% to 62%. We did that again in this survey, in this last survey, last April, and it's 63%. So there hasn't been a increased fear of the other. In fact, there's been a more liberalization on guns, on gays, et cetera, et cetera. But the job loss during this period has been phenomenal. And yes, there's been a movement towards MAGA, but mostly there's been a movement just away from politics, disgust.
Yeah, I think you may have misunderstood something that I said. I wasn't trying to say that the other got them to leave the party. I thought what I meant to say is that how can the working class become MAGA? How can the working class become or go adjacent to a party who really, with their policies, show that they despise them? There had to be some external factor that allows them to hook onto that party, as opposed to say, I'm leaving the Democrats, but I'm not going to the Republicans. They've left the Democrats. And they've, if you watch my chat today and other places, they've actually adapted to the people who are harming them the most. I showed them videos today of what's happening to farmland, what's happening to this other stuff. There's something that when you say a party of our own, I can understand why a party of our own, separate from Republicans and Democrats, are necessary. But why is it that they have chosen to cling otherwise?
The word that you use, they, is a very large number of people.
True.
Okay. So some of them, yes, are your Neanderthal racists that you're talking about, and have gravitated to MAGA because they just are afraid of the other. But there's a much larger group, way larger group of working class people who have no home at all. Those who then voted for Trump didn't do it out of enthusiasm. Many of them did it because they just wanted to tear the system down. Yeah. They had no, it was a protest vote.
Yes.
But the vote was, but even before that, it was there. Let's take a look at West Virginia, this one county that I zeroed in on, Mingo County. Why did I look at this county? It's the county that lost the most coal jobs between 1996, Bill Clinton's second term, and 2020. It's a county of only 30,000 people. Now it's 25,000 people. It had 3,300 coal jobs in 1996. It now has 300. It lost the most coal jobs of any county in the whole country. That's why I looked at it. What happened to the Democratic Party vote? Bill Clinton got 70. By the way, it's 95% white.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Bill Clinton got 70% of the vote. And then every 4 years, the Democratic vote went down and down and down and down. Barack Obama got 42% of the vote. A black man.
Just substantial, yeah.
Yeah. Joe Biden got 13%. Barack Obama got
Joe Biden got
yes, got 13%. Kamala Harris got 12%. In West Virginia today, there are 130 or something state seats. 16 of them are held by Democrats. 46 seats, there's no contest at all. The Democratic Party is dead. What happened? The Democratic Party could not do what Franklin Roosevelt did. They could not create the jobs that these people desperately needed. You know what became the number one industry of Mingo County? When I found this out, I almost fell off my chair. Opioid prescription mills. Two drugstores competed with each other, and they put out these little drugstores in this tiny county in West Virginia, put out as many opioid prescriptions as the largest drugstores in New York and Boston, et cetera. They got doctors, hours away to just sign prescriptions willy-nilly. One per minute. They were putting out one per minute, and cars were lined up from a 5-state area. That became the industry for West Virginia. So you can imagine people there being a little upset with the political system.
Well, you gave another story, and I think this is actually important with a liberal arts college. Why don't you tell us about that? Because it shows you sometimes that being it's about layoffs. It shows you that if you're gonna talk the talk, you walk the walk, or else they walk away from you.
Well said. I should have put that in the book. Here's what happened there.
I'll patent that for you, not copyrighted. I'm gonna patent
sure
that
you
for
will.
you.
Yes. So what happened was my alma mater college is Oberlin College in Ohio, and in 2020 during COVID, they laid off or they replaced 114 unionized workers with lower wage subcontractors, and a bunch of us tried to do something about it, and we failed. We did raise a lot of money to help these workers when they left, 114 of them. So we had some student interns from Oberlin College who interviewed these workers, and what they found was really remarkable. The workers, first of all, many of them had been there longer than any of the administrators. This was their livelihoods. In northeastern Ohio, industrial jobs are pretty much gone. So this was the best employer you could find in the area. So people really wanted these jobs and wanted to hold on to them. They saw the administration, Oberlin College, as a liberal place. It was the liberal establishment. They felt betrayed by the establishment. They felt that the college didn't live up to its liberal values, that they betrayed them, that they trashed them. And they were very upset. They were very angry.
But it's the truth.
Well, it's the truth. And then I had this flash, which fed into this new book, Why We Need a Party of Our Own, which was, hey, substitute liberal establishment, put in Democratic Party. And I realized we had done some surveys and some workshops I'd done with the steelworkers, and they said the same thing. They felt that the Democratic Party had betrayed them, that they hadn't lived up to their values. And then we did this survey that led to the book that said that's what most people thought, that the Democratic Party, the liberal establishment, was betraying its values, were out of touch with working people, and didn't care about protecting their jobs. And that's true. Bill Clinton said the era of big government is over. And since that point, no Democrat has actually said we're going to create jobs for working people. Jimmy Carter, who was no raving radical, in 1978 created 780,000 public sector jobs to deal with the recession that was going on and to the fiscal crises that were going on in cities. 780,000 jobs. How many did we create in Appalachia? None. Zero. Instead, we move to public-private partnerships. We give money to corporations. Do the corporations actually create the jobs? Well, no. If they want to, they do. If they don't, they don't. For example, this one still bothers me, and it's in the book. I don't want to say too much about the book because I want people to get it and read it. But here's one little snippet. Joe Biden understood, the Biden administration understood that Mingo County was hurting. And they said they were going to give loans to this fertilizer company that was going to build a new factory nearby. It was going to create 2,000 construction jobs right off the bat. So they had all these loans and guaranteed funds that they were going to give the company. This was 3 years ago. Guess what? The company decided, well, you know what? We don't really want to build a facility. And they haven't broken ground. None of those jobs have been created. Zero. So why not just rebuild the roads, rebuild the schools, rebuild the infrastructure, set up high-speed internet? All these things are needed. Set up a campus from the state college that would retrain people and give them new skills. None of that was done because that era of big government is over. So this book is a refutation of that kind of thinking. It's all about how we need a people-centered economy, not a corporate-centered economy. And, that's what people want.
You write a whole lot about that in the articles that you write on your Substack and on Common Dreams. Now, you completely blew the direction that I was taking this interview. And the reason why is I was going to go from chapter to chapter, but I think you did it a better way. Because you jumped around in chapters as you gave these answers, which is great. But because I think it gives a fuller picture. Now, the Democrats, there are two parties right now, but I would argue that there are really three parties right now, three major parties. That is progressive Democrats that really hold no power. They cannot get themselves the leadership in the party. I would then have the neoliberal establishment, which is not the Democratic Party. It's the neoliberal portion of the Democratic Party that works with the neoliberal portion of the Republican Party, and then with the kooks on the right. That's how I see it in this country. Now, what you are proposing is that you have no faith that the progressive wing of the Democratic Party will ever get its act together in such a manner that it'll overthrow the moneyed part of the party, which is what I call the neoliberal part of the party. And as such, you think, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I want you to correct me if I'm wrong. You think that you either need a complete destruction of the liberal wing or a new party altogether. Where do you fall?
Okay. Let's look at the country as a whole. We're a very big country. There are 130 congressional districts where the Republicans win by 25% or more. In those districts, it's like West Virginia. The Democratic Party has basically given up. So the reform wing of if you're identified with the Democratic Party as the reform wing, forget it. You have no chance in those 130 districts. That's where you need something new. Almost immediately, if you set up a new independent party of working people, it would be the second party right off the bat. It would be more popular than the Democrats. And the Democrats, people who vote Democrat would immediately vote for that. And then you'd have a chance to get independents and some Republicans who are working class people. In blue areas and purple areas, I'm agnostic about. I mean, I support the reform wing. Go ahead, try to take on the billionaire Democrats, the neoliberal Democrats, as you call them. That's fine, but that's only half the country. I'm talking. My whole book is about looking at what happens when the election closes. 5 seconds later, half the country goes red. Bing, 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 bing. All these counties go red on your television.
That shouldn't be red.
There's no reason they should be also contested, but they can't be contested by the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party in those 130 districts has lost all credibility. That's where my book is aimed. It's not aimed at attacking AOC or Bernie or Mondami or those people or the folk, the liberal Democrats in Texas. No, do your thing. I'm going after the places that you can't even get near. Where the Democrats have lost the support, so much support that they can't even put up a fight. So, for example, in Nebraska, you've got Dan Osborne, a former local union president, running as an independent. The Democrats aren't even running anybody, and he's not a Democrat. He's running against both parties, and he's got a shot at winning the Senate seat, whether he does or not. He's running against a guy from a billionaire family. It's going to be tough, very tough. It's sort of a neck and neck race now, but he's doing way better than he did. Way better than Kamala Harris. Did 15 points better than her in the last election, and way better than the Democrats have ever done there. So that's the area where we need to work on. And you know the good thing about it, we can do what you do so well. In those areas, you get to talk to people that don't immediately agree with you right away, right? They go, oh, you know, you're too liberal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But when you start having these conversations, good things happen, because the way to build a political future for ourselves is to start talking to people that don't agree with us, but that share a basic sense of decency about what our economy should be. And very quickly, we have found my whole institute doesn't talk to the converted. We work with trade union members who come from all over the place. And in our workshops, towards the end, we get them to draw pictures of what they think an economy would look like without runaway inequality. And they do some amazing things.
Don't tell us the results, because I think, I think people need to get this out of your book. I mean, I think so importantly, first of all, I can't say, but tell us about your book, how to be able to hold on to that, etc.
Well, I think if ideally, if you can do it, buy it on Amazon and write a review, because it turns out the way we can get the word out is Amazon is the best vehicle. But you can also get it anywhere else at your local bookstore. They'll have to order it for you, but you can get it. You know, just say Party of Our Own or The Billionaires Need Two Parties, and it'll come right up.
And the author is Les Leopold.
Right. And by the way, all the royalties go back into our education program to reach more people. It doesn't go to me personally.
This is the 501c3 that Les Leopold is working with. And Les, first of all, I think there are a lot more discussions that we're going to have. And what I'm going to want to do is I'd like, if you have the time, I'd like to have you back on, but in real time, where people can actually call and ask questions. Also, I think like I said, I am one of your fans on Common Dreams, and I think this whole movement needs a centralization type book. And there are a lot of people out there that are writing books and doing a whole lot of stuff, but they're writing books. There are not many writing books that are also living the life and established organizations to do this work. So there is a Substack that's been put together called Party of Our Own, that it's going to be the genesis of the book club. I hope that you have out there, that I hope get some traction. When we're done with this interview, and I've turned it into a blog as well, I'll try to direct folks to that particular link, because these are serious times, and we need to stop talking about these issues as if we don't have agency. And I think what your book has done is it has not only spoke about it. You know, I talked to the Mike who wrote a forward to your book. I talked to him and said, "Oh, the elitist because he's a professor and a dean, etc." But if you take a look at the forward, and if you take a look at what you all are trying to do and put together, I think it is some important work that needs to be looked at, not just from a point of view of, okay, this is what folks need to do, but you guys have come out and said, this is what we have seen people say that they want. This is what we have seen that people say that they need. So with that, I'm going to ask you to give a closing statement, as well as one more time how to get the book, which I think is invaluable.
Thank you so much for your kind words. I think this is a book of hope. These are very, very trying times, but there is a path out of the mess that we're in. We can get away from the billionaires controlling our political life. We can move towards a world where working people can create a party of their own and of our own. We can get there, but like you used the great word, agency, we have to believe that we can make a difference. And what I'm trying to do with this book is to start a conversation. The billionaires have two parties. We need a party of our own. I want to get people debating it, discussing it all over the place. And the only way I know how to do that is to get this book out. And you can get it on Amazon, Apple, wherever you like to purchase your books, or from your independent bookstores. It's easy to get. The billionaires have two parties. We need a party of our own. And it's a political bombshell, and it's a party of hope, a book of hope that says there's a way out of this mess that we're in. And we don't have to live this way. We can have a people-centered economy, and it could be prosperous for us all. And I want to share that message because we need to believe that there's a better future ahead for us.
And look, there is, again, like I said, there is a Substack newsletter called A Party of Our Own that will centralize on a book club for this. So I hope, and Les will be there to answer. That's what he'll be there to talk to you directly if you have some questions along with other experts. We intend to have our good friend of the station and all our stations, Tom Hartman. I haven't spoken to him yet, but we want to hear his views and the views of many others that are good friends of KPFT, Pacifica, Politics Done Right, and the others. So stay focused, folks, and we're going to get this done. Les Leopold, founder of the Labor Institute and the author of We Need a Party of Our Own. I'm not going to give the long name. You guys can go look that up. Thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right.
Thank you so much.
Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willis. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willis. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.